Hiya Jerry, lovely to finally meet up with you and do some work on your game. Obviously during the visit we covered a lot of areas. What I've tried to do here is just sort of refine it down. I've sent you the notes across, the images across that we did throughout the visit, but I'm just trying to refine it down to the sort of bare minimum for you going forward so that you can really get into the process. One of the things we noticed out on the golf course was that there was a tendency to want to maybe lift the arms and take the club back a little bit further than you normally would. This resulted in the left shoulder coming up and you losing your inclination to the ground a little bit, which is something that you hadn't really demonstrated to a great level on the range the day before, but obviously it was something that came up, so that's worth bearing in mind. But I think these two swings that I've got up here now down the line pretty much typify the sort of the direction you've got to go. Certainly for the next month or so before we hopefully get some footage across and can start to add some detail. Excuse me. What we were seeing at the start of the session, player who's pushing it, hooking it. We talked about the playing lines that we use through the hands, through the elbow, and how that swing, that arc, when viewed from above, is obviously you can put that on the ground. You want to trace the arc both sides of the ball. What we're seeing was a player who, at the top of the backswing, had a little bit of cupping in the lead wrist. Club was moving a little bit across the line, to be honest. I mean, it's not massively across the line there, but the swing is a little bit shorter. If that swing was longer, then the club would be more across the line, so more right shifted. And typical someone who's hitting sort of pushes and hooks. Right elbow would get a little bit more sort of out behind you. So right elbow pointed too much over here. Again, typical of someone with a cut wrist and an across the line position. The main thing was coming into the golf ball. The sweet spot would get too far behind the hands. The hips would level out too much through the hip. And the arms were thrown away from the body. Very, very sort of push, hook bias movement that we have to have something in place, a process in place when you practice that can reduce this tendency to get the sweet spot too far behind the hands and the arms being flung away from the torso too much. So, again, we worked on different things. We put the cane under the arm for your pressure point at the top, which changed the condition of the right elbow quite a lot. We talked about your top of the backswing actually being P3.5. That's on your notes that follow the lesson. So you're aware of that. Not trying to go too far back during the backswing. But we mentioned that even if the sweet spot got in behind the hands, you could make that work provided you could turn the corner in an appropriate manner down at P7. We talked about how Furyk gets the right elbow behind him, gets the club a little bit behind him, as does McIlroy, but then they both make that nice move through the ball that sort of counteracts that. So as long as you turn the corner at the bottom, you can learn to function. So what we're doing on the right, we've got the bar in place to the left of the shoulder. I'm asking you to hit a little bit of a pull to the left of that cane. It's about 6 paces in front of you. And this is about you learning to introduce the correct feels and the correct pieces to combat the move that we see on the left. So this is not necessarily how you're going to play golf, but certainly how you want to practice. And judging by the video that I was sent the other day, that's what you've already started to do. So a little bit less lift at the top. Condition of the right elbow's improved. So right elbow's not popped out behind you as much. Left wrist is not as cut. Club's not as across the line. As you're coming into the ball at P6, the sweet spot now is not as far in behind the hands. And now as you come through the golf ball, instead of where you would previously hit out at the ball excessively, Your hands are tracing the arc, both sides of the ball. There's more flex in the pelvis. There's more flex in the right knee. Forearm alignments at impact are dramatically different. The chest is opening up through the ball. All those things are helping you turn the corner down at the bottom. So the act of keeping the arms beneath the bar in the through swing, and therefore lowering the exit, reducing the rate of closure on the club face, so there's your push and your hook under control straight away, is encouraging the body to continuously open up. So for the hips to continuously open up, or the pelvis to continuously open up, the knees have got to work a certain way, the chest has got to keep moving as well, and you start to see a real positive impact in relation to the shot pattern that you would normally suffer. So sweet spot less in behind the hands at P6, shoulders less shut at P7, handle working lower through the ball, hips opening up far more. You look at where the sort of the back loop on the belt would be at that point compared to where it'd be here. So the hips are opening up much more continuously, as is the chest. The shoulder tilts are more level. There's more flex in the pelvis coming into the golf ball, and that's introducing a lot more left shift pieces, pull, fade, etc., etc. And that played a huge part in sort of changing your swing direction, getting that under control so that you don't have to roll the club face quite as much, and that in turn allows you to hit a much tighter shot pattern. If ever it gets a little bit right shifted, if ever it gets a little bit pushy or the draw gets too heavy, get the bar in place, hit some shots. You've got a great ally there in Peter who you can talk to at length about that drill and the positive impacts it can have. So that's one going forward that you want to continue to use. We touched on tightening the radius of the swing a little bit. I didn't spend too much time on this, just said that every now and again you get the odd little bit of a miss hit. You can see you got your baby there under your arm, controlling that pressure point under the right arm against the torso. The towel about a foot, maybe 15 inches behind the golf ball, folded over in three, just stops the wrist angles dumping a little bit too fast and the low point moving back a little bit, which is typical again of someone who is right shifted. Club comes in a little bit too low to the ground, and we can get the odd shot that is a little bit heavy, even though the weight is not dropping back. We also looked at your driver when we talked about the positioning of the golf ball and the effects it was having on your shot pattern. And obviously at the start of the session we are very much right shifted, pushes, hooks, struggling to get any trajectory on the shot, and we've got the ball a long way back from the swing centre, so we advise you to move the ball forward more in line with the swing centre, to maybe not have the handle quite as far forward in relation to the club head. So whereas the loft here is pointing well to the right, now the loft is pointing more down your target line. The handle is still far enough forward, sort of encroaching onto the left thigh. Here, in my opinion, it's too far forward. The address plane line is shifted too far to the right, whereas here everything is lined up a little bit more and requires less rotation of the club to prevent the ball going way to the right. Your main thing with driver is to get a process in place that allows you to hit fairways, allows you to have something to do when you're in a position you're not comfortable with. If you were going to hit a bad drive, you would be very right shifted. So therefore what we suggested was we introduce a process that, at least for the short term, eliminates any chance of you being too right shifted. We put a cane out in front of you about 8 paces, and we ask you to address in a manner that's going to start the ball left of that cane every time. You're going to treat the cane almost like a tree that you're going to try and fade it round. Once you got the ball starting left of the cane and you got the start direction under control, it took you a few shots, but once you got it under control, you started to figure out pretty quickly what to do with the club face to bend the ball back. And short term, whilst you're working on realigning the swing and whilst you're working on turning the corner, I feel hitting that fade off the tee is a more appropriate way of doing things. It's a much better process for you to have, and in an area of the game that you've not been very comfortable with, you've almost tried to sort of eliminate the use of the driver. My main goal is to encourage you to get the driver out the bag, and judging by the ball flight that you were hitting towards the end of that session, we've certainly done that. So when you're hitting the driver, just play that little fade for now, but visualise that workstation that you had where you got the cane in front of you and you're just trying to start the ball up the left hand side and then bend it back. Good luck with it. If you get any questions, feel free to get in touch. Obviously keep me posted on the progress, and hopefully in the not too distant future we can get together again and do some further work on your game. Well done.